Ethan, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and with Vanta being a great partner of Trace3, we would love to hear, I guess, a few things. Obviously, what you've got in terms of product and what's coming up. But first, really just talk about the GRC space, sort of what you guys are seeing out there, what trends you're seeing. We'd love to hear all that.
Yeah. No, I can talk for hours on this.
I love it. Let's go.
Yeah, let's get right into it. So many trends in our space right now. I think it's really exciting, and like the innovation and the pace of innovation right now is pretty incredible compared to where it was 3 years ago.
Sure.
There are a couple, for me, really big trends in our space. Number one, and I think we'll talk about this more later too, is really centralization.
Okay.
Truly.
Right? Trying to be a one-stop shop for really anything, all things GRC.
Yeah.
So we always call ourselves a trust management platform.
I love that.
Yeah, so it's beyond just, hey, we're not going to call ourselves a GRC platform or risk management platform.
Nope.
Fully embracing trust management from, of course, the classic things in GRC, right?
Yeah.
Security compliance isn't going anywhere.
Right.
Risk management, risk assessments, overall governance, always going to be important, but you want to combine that with customer trust, right? In the end of the day, it's building trust with your customers.
Sure.
So they feel safe that when you have their data, they can trust you throughout that entire engagement that you're working with them.
Yeah, I love that. And you guys have been really dominating the market recently.
yeah.
There is tons of advertisements and really leaning in with partners and customers. So really, really commendable. And our team loves working
Absolutely.
with Vanta and really seeing how the space, I agree with you, the space is changing immensely and fast. I feel like these legacy tools were so manual, but now with some really innovative, like next gen type of platforms, we're really seeing the space really evolve. And so, tell us a little bit about, the platform and how it's so different from maybe some of those legacy products where clients are really scared to try something new because they've been burned so much in the past.
Or some have never even had a GRC tool. This is going to be a big overhead.
Massive
Excel spreadsheets.
Here we go.
Right.
Man, that's
right.
PTSD for me being from my auditing days there.
Understood.
Oh yeah, I think we're all been there. It's night and day. I think different to when we were in 2021. I remember when I was working with a lot of my clients when I was back in consulting, and GRC platforms weren't really even a topic of conversation.
Right.
There was always the legacy players like Archer that everybody used.
Yep.
But if you didn't have people who really knew how to use Archer and how to develop it and customize it, which can be a good solution if you do that, it just became shelfware for a lot of teams. But any of these big GRC tools that have been around for a long time at these companies, and you're shuffling in new people. Some people have that expertise, some people don't, or they have new visions of how to do things.
Yeah.
So we really saw a transition from that to say, hey, this isn't making our lives easier. We're not really shifting left in terms of automation and actually using all these new innovative technologies that we were seeing everywhere else in the security space.
Of course.
It was everywhere for a long time, and it just didn't touch GRC. So what Vanta did was come in and say, hey, it started with SOC 2, right? It started with, how can we just be living in this world of these humongous spreadsheets and just kind of a point-in-time assessment and hoping everything's good for the majority of the year when you do collect that evidence?
Right.
It was just, hey, cross your fingers. Let's hope
that was
works
it.
out well. That
Right.
was it. So we wanted to change that. We want to say, hey, let's start this new concept called continuous monitoring, continuous verification, where we can actually check if your security controls are in place on a continuous basis. It's every hour be able to say, okay,
and
let's see
that's
this
such
here.
a big trend right now, this continuous GRC, continuous monitoring, continuous validation. And because I think, at the time we could only have these point in time kind of testing because either budget or we didn't have the tools that allowed us to have kind of the speed that it is today. And, it's really kind of exciting. And also I feel like the GRC tools of the past were always like a nice to have, but now they are truly becoming a need to have. An organization who doesn't have, a tool like Vanta really is at a disadvantage.
Yes.
Yeah.
And is probably costing their organization more money and times and resources. Do you agree with that?
I
or?
100% agree.
Yeah.
How can you scale
Truly.
with not having a platform? I mean,
Right.
it's crazy to think about. That's how it used to be. Hey, we're going to try and expand in Singapore. we don't know how to deal with Singapore regulations related to security requirements and everything. Let's hire a team out in Singapore to do that, which is all
Get
fine.
another
It's
spreadsheet
great.
out.
Get another
and
spreadsheet.
Let's start over.
Have your US folks go at 11 p.m. on a call with the next morning. But it's right. How can you expand your business to all these different jurisdictions? How can you actually tackle real security vulnerabilities when you're constantly just trying to stay above water? Really, you can't be forward-looking. You have to continuously being, okay, we just got to keep going with this. We got to make sure that our current status, we can just maintain that. And it really took away from a lot of the, I think, value that a lot of GRC folks, and just general security folks, really, the fun stuff they want to get into. They want to solve problems. They want to, right? Like, they want like these risk assessments just to be, hey, we're just going to do it and hopefully
an audit activity.
Check the box. An audit activity, right? Yeah.
Or like, with this piece of evidence, is this the one that I submitted, or is this the latest version? Oh my gosh, I used to spend hours just trying to figure out what the last evidence was.
In an earlier discussion, you brought up the point, the industry sort of leaning and insurance driving that towards that idea of, well, we're going to constantly measure you. So you need a tool that's constantly evaluating on the inside, just so you know, hey, are we reducing these risks? Are we meeting our objectives or not? Not just guess when, the auditors are here, now we got to see how we did. Let's cross our fingers and see.
Yeah, we're seeing that in third-party risk management too now.
Yeah.
It's not just like, hey, we're going to do this annual assessment and give us all the documentation at that point, and
another 11 months, we won't.
No. Now it's like some of these, especially these larger companies, are saying, hey, on a monthly basis, we're gonna check on this stuff.
Yeah.
Like we were putting it in our contracts for a reason. We want you to keep it, and we want you to be able to prove it.
Well, and especially if that's where, with AI, I mean, everything's SaaS. And very few are going to develop their own, and most are going to lean in and find a solution. And now you're putting potentially your most, sensitive data, and you haven't gone through the exercise of, like you said, not just evaluating them once in a year and saying, okay, it's fine the other 11 months. I mean, that constant need to do it. And if you've got a large landscape, how do you have enough people to do that?
You can't. And
would you say, in terms of the customers that you're seeing, that maybe instead of the continuous GRC platform as the buyer, they're actually trying to get a handle on their third-party risk management and entering from that space first? I feel like, I don't know why, that GRC, the continuous GRC or the trust platforms, those types of things, I don't want to say they've been so... They've got kind of like a stink to them because of these legacy platforms and how manual it is.
Yeah.
But then once clients are really looking at your third-party tools, and then it's kind of like the gateway drug into the other portions of the platform. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that is a huge trend right now for us too. I think third-party risk management has kind of been this like black box for a lot of companies for a long time.
It's hard.
It's hard.
Right.
Yeah, especially when these huge companies that have hundreds of vendors. Well, are we really going to start believing that they're doing these in-depth security assessments on every single one of them? Right? Of course, they're all doing it. We definitely, we read through everything and we went back to the right people.
I didn't see any exceptions noted. We're going to...
No, we're going to gloss over that, right? Yeah. Or like, do they even know what vendors that people at their company are using?
Fair. Absolutely.
Right? No, like almost everyone would say, no, not sure. Like, we hope we know, but we have this list that we say people aren't, or this is what you can use, this is what you can't use. Are they following it? We don't know.
Right.
So third-party risk management is a huge, I think, thing that folks come to us to say, hey, to solve those problems. Like, hey, first off, we want to be able to run these assessments in a efficient and streamlined manner that we can actually continuously do those over time, where they actually have value.
Yeah.
And also, like, it will help us just sleep at night to understand that we're using vendors who aren't going to pose a critical risk to our company where we don't actually have controls in place to address it.
Yeah, and I think what's really nice is also a lot of the regulations are backing you on that, right?
Yeah.
And then so if you have these regulations that are requiring this third-party due diligence and this third-party risk management, and really creating it more as a program in their organization, and having a tool that's really allowing it to make it a little bit easier on this really artisan task, it becomes really difficult.
Yeah, I was going to say, I would love to hear more, because you've got tools that will help you with the collection but you go farther than just the collection of it. I mean,
Yeah.
you're bringing them the value.
Exactly. It starts with collection, but it also starts with, hey, what can we leverage, like using AI to actually comb through all this documentation that we're getting,
100%.
to actually understand, like, are these legitimate answers to a security questionnaire?
Yes.
Is this the absolute truth? Are we collecting what we can to actually have that assurance level? That's a huge part. Also, continuous monitoring of your vendors.
Yes.
I think that's an area that every CISO for a long time said, we could do these just annual assessments, but we don't know a couple weeks later that a vulnerability surfaced on our vendor.
Or they got a
doesn't
breach.
impact us.
Right.
Or they had a breach.
And
Just
what if
simple
they're
as
that vendor
Yeah.
that is the highest, risk for you because of the data they have? Yeah.
Right, exactly.
Right.
Yeah, like we can say, okay, we know what data they have, we know they pose this huge risk,
Sure.
but we don't know what is actually going on there. So I think that's where our third-party risk management also has seen a huge, we acquired a company recently called Risky that really focused on that continuous monitoring, and that's been a huge, I think every CISO we speak to says, hey, if you can actually do this well, which there's fair skepticism,
Understandably.
right?
Yeah.
Like, I think everyone's seen these tools that say they do
But
this.
it's not an easy button.
Not yet, right? It's like, oh, all of a sudden, okay, great. Like, we can see every single thing, all these critical vulnerabilities.
Sure.
But like, we really have to prove that we're doing it well, and we're seeing a lot of traction there because that's real security value, and that's an area that everybody was worried about, and it's really cool to see us like really starting to address it.
Yeah.
Well, and keeping on that like CISO train, I really also think because you guys are able to kind of show the ROI with your dashboards and showing how you're protecting allows also a security leader to report that to leadership or a board, which makes the conversation a lot different. And I think that that's also showing value because now they have these metrics and measures that they can, it's not just like once a year, they're like, hey, we passed SOC 2
Right.
or high trust or insert whatever you have here, right? It's in addition to that, you can show trends, either quarter after quarter, really, day after day, but you can show those trends to the board, which also then creates the trust. So not only is it a trust for your clients and their customers, but it's also a CISO's getting that trust from their board, which helps defend, I think, the spend towards, a platform like yours.
Yeah,
which is
proving
great.
value. Oh, 100%. A lot of the areas when we talk to CISOs, reporting is always huge, right? They say,
Huge.
like, risk management heat maps are great and everything, but like we want to see, like, we want to be able to present this to our board, to our executive
In their
leaders,
terms,
in their
right.
terms that they
Yes.
understand that.
Yep.
Like, how can we translate this to monetary value? How can we show this is where the spend is going towards, and this is how we've actually dramatically reduced this risk to the business. Similarly across, even within compliance, to be able to say, like, hey, we're complying with these regulations, all these different attestations and certifications that we're going for, because now they can actually show that we've done all the work for, say, an ISO type of certification. We can actually now expand into, let's say, Japan and start looking at some, financial services regulations there that we actually have already really actually solved a lot of those problems with these other compliance efforts. So they can use that too to say, we can take the next step. So it's not only just saying proving the current value, it's saying this is what we could be doing. And we're proving you on a really, we see a day-to-day basis. It can be monthly, quarterly at least, I'd say. But yeah, absolutely, that's huge. Like the reporting piece, absolutely.
And I feel like that's where a lot of CISOs, the great tacticians in terms of, I can tactically manage this program, but when it comes to talking to the board level in their terms, it's a failure. And they're really putting themselves through some unneeded stress if they would just find a platform like that where it's like, look, when we can pull these risks together, translate them, and help you tell that story. In fact, you don't even need to talk. The tool can do it for you. Like, anytime they want to go in and see it, here it is.
Yeah, I've gotten calls and someone I literally will pull like the direct graph or something from the platform and say, I literally showed this during our board meeting, and it was the most engagement that I got from my executive leadership ever.
Oh, isn't that so flattering?
Yeah, I love
right?
that.
And they can see the spend is reducing the risk or getting it to the comfort level of their of the board and the executives. Like, hey, we're good at this level. Let's just keep it here. So
So can I get a little nuancy on you? So in terms of you said continuous validation versus like continuous GRC. So maybe explain to the audience like the little nuances behind that. Maybe how many frameworks that you can maybe attest to for customers and things like that. I think that would be really valuable.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, definitely. So Vanta today, we support over 40 frameworks. That's just, when we talk about out of the box, that means that we have a GRC team, like my counterparts, who actually will go in and map everything out from these requirements, interpret them into controls.
You got to love nerds.
Evidence. Yeah,
I'm a reformed auditor, so I got it.
There we go. That's the entire team.
Too,
We're GRC nerds, and we love it.
Yeah.
That's what we're here for. We love it. And like we're really translating, some also can be complex requirements dashboards too for some of these frameworks.
Sure.
Into really actionable items for these teams, and then we're layering in. We talk about continuous verification. I think a lot of times it was just like, oh, we're just going to collect this evidence once a month, and we're going to call that continuous because, like, hey, we can just continue doing this, and at least on some more better than annually, we can do this. We can actually prove that we have this in place, but it's actually directly integrating into these systems to see, is that security configuration in every hour? Is that, if we're spinning up a new instance, how do we know that, right? Right. Yeah, it's shifting left.
And I think you can be able to sleep at night knowing that you have your controls are in place.
And doing it ahead of time. We always talk about, hey, let's not wait till they're already a partner. Let's actually do some proactive due diligence and say, okay, this is the partner we want to go after for this particular function. Let's use the platform to send them something ahead of time. Maybe they don't have the maturity of a SOC 2 and they can't give us that. Great, here's our questions, here's our standards that we expect you to hit. Let's see what it says. And then the platform, the nice thing is when the answer comes back, you don't even necessarily have to be the front line reading it. The AI tool can read it, and then you can step in. So,
exactly.
Yeah, I think that's a huge, huge benefit that a lot of people just don't understand with those platforms that you can get.
Yeah, we always say shifting left. Like GRC used to be like a retroactive type exercise and kind of just like keep things above water, putting out fires. Now it's actually becoming shifted left. Let's actually make it to solve those risks in real time.
That's awesome.
If we're getting a new vendor, let's make sure like before we actually start using them that we have that assurance that we know that there's a tolerable risk level. We're spinning up new, even AWS instances, or our engineering teams using so many of these tools. How can we ingrain these security controls into those methodologies that they're developing it, instead of checking back after? That's such a huge value add. And then, of course, even the trust piece with the questionnaire automation.
Sure.
Right?
Oh, that trust center and the trust, huge.
And everything's going SaaS. I mean, a lot of pressure now on the organizations because that, what was traditionally hosted on-prem is, a lot of the platforms are just pushing people that way anyway. Like, hey, no longer can you have this in that form. It has to be the subscription model, has to be, out in the cloud. Now they've got a whole new set of issues they got to worry about. I don't have that direct control anymore, so it's just making their problems in that landscape a little bit bigger.
And it creates transparency, just in general across the industry. I think before it used to be so hard to understand if a specific company was doing what they're saying they're doing or doing what they're supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
And now it's just a trust center, and in general, any of those like externally facing trust pages that really show real-time security of your organization is such a huge value add deal. I speak to teams all the time, and they say, oh yeah, it looks like Vanta, you guys have this, and this in place, and all these great things. Let's talk about more of that, and it creates a more valuable conversation too.
Oh, I love that. And also, you're putting, with somebody who has a trust center and they're putting it up front, it also takes the burden off of the team. Because before, they also have customers that are asking them for questionnaires and hey, do you have these things in place? That would have to be, fitted with somebody who would have to go and get all of those things, curate it and send it off, which is a lot of time. So having that, front page trust center open with having at least, maybe 60 or 70% of the documents there makes also that trust is up front, being like, hey, listen, we're proud that we maintain this level of security, so we have this available for you to download at your convenience. And so having, a platform like yours to help customers, with how they're seen in the marketplace,
with the competitors,
and transparency. It also allows to be like, hey, should I go with this partner that doesn't have this trust center, or it's harder to get those documents versus somebody that already has that in place? And then also, so that's kind of like the one side of the, third-party risk management side. And then the other one is really kind of, propelling all those due diligence questionnaires out, which becomes very burdensome as well.
So, these big organizations that are doing who knows how many those questionnaires a month. Talk about bogging down security teams, slowing up deal cycles. I remember salespeople always used to say, man, like this is ready to be, but I can't wait 3 weeks for you guys to turn these questionnaires around.
Yeah.
So it also empowers the rest of the organization also. Like, I think I talked to our sales team, they say, yeah, we can use what we have in our trust center to get ahead of this and actually put that in front of them. And
great point.
Yeah, like why put that burden entirely on the security team?
You said it's a business differentiator.
Exactly, it's just security becoming a competitive advantage. Where you can say, look, we have all this in place. Like, you might be evaluating 3 vendors at the same time right now. How many of them will, you can actually get that assurance that we know exactly who their sub-processes are. Like, you know exactly they're doing the exact encryption methods that you need to be using. That's just, not every company has it, and yeah, it just empowers everybody to actually have that confidence when you're going through any of these security due diligence reviews, whether you're the one being reviewed or you're actually doing the assessment yourself.
That's great.
It's crazy times, that's for sure.
Yeah.
It is.
And there's so much adoption, I feel like that's happening, and we're at least advocating immensely for customers to either incorporate a trust center or think about continuous validation and or think about continuous GRC. And so we are, it's kind of one of our big predictions, and so if an enterprise doesn't have it, we kind of looking at them, because it's just, they're wasting money by not doing it. They're wasting really resources and really legacy artifacts and things like that, which makes the whole entire audit experience, kind of frustrating.
Yeah.
And that's times of the past.
That's times of the past. Like, it's just, this is where things are going. This is how your team can actually scale without growing your team. I think we hear that all the time too.
Huge.
We're like, we can't get additional headcount on our security team.
Right.
We need to figure out other ways to
do more with
accomplish our
less.
goals. Exactly. So it's just, it's just incredibly important to have that there, where you just empower everyone to really understand, okay, we can use these really great technologies and that leverage AI, right? Everyone's embedding AI into this. And the idea is, how can we do less with more?
100%.
Like, in terms of do more with less, I apologize. Like, how can we do more with the same team that we have, but we get more capabilities? We can really solve a lot of these larger problems that we couldn't address before, and you can't do that without having certain SaaS platforms today. You really, unless you can always try and develop an in-house type of product, which a lot of larger companies have.
Sure.
It's not easy. And these companies that like Vanta that we've been leading the space really since 2018, and we were driven by that trust management idea, by actually helping businesses earn improved trust. That's our motto. Sure. That's where it stops.
I love it.
Yeah, not overcomplicating it, saying, hey, you want to build trust, we want you to trust us, we want you to build trust with your stakeholders, with internal, external stakeholders, and really just empower the entire internet to feel comfortable that their data is actually being safeguarded.
That's great.
Fantastic.
So if a customer wants to hear more about Vanta or see the platform, I guess what's the easiest way for them to engage with you?
Go right to our website,
Okay.
Vanta.com. You can even Google it, put in Vanta, it will show up right there. Someone will immediately reach out to you, an actual person. We've tested this out.
All right.
I'm not even joking. I had a client actually test it out live to say, are you a bot or not? It's someone that works on our team that is
that's
really going to
awesome.
immediately just start getting, hey, what brought you to us here? What can we help you with? And then you can get in a conversation with someone like me.
That's great.
I love talking to new people too, so definitely I want to empower everybody to reach out and take a look through Vanta and see if there's anything we can help you out with.
Awesome.